Hello Astro friends and family, my name is Carien. I joined Lada's team at the end of March this year, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of support from the community on this channel, so thank you so much. And today I'd like to introduce 3 difficult combinations I've encountered that can cause lower self-confidence or feeling power being taken away. If you happen to have one of them, you might be on the path of empowerment. And of course, there are a lot of difficult combinations that correspond to different traits and emotional difficulties. But for today's topic, I like just to focus on the self-confidence. Otherwise, the video will go on until tomorrow. And first and foremost, I'm using the tropical zodiac and whole sign house system. But I also use large study of Ashtas and also the planetary friendships from Vedic astrology. So now the definition of self-confidence. Self-confidence is an attitude about your skills and abilities. It means you accept and trust yourself. And also you have a sense of control in your life, in different aspects of life, because we're not going to be fully confident in every aspect of our lives. And that's okay too. For example, you can feel confident in certain areas like growing fruits or gardening, or maybe academic performance, but maybe you feel less confidence in relationships or cooking. That's also possible. So it is the self-confidence in the skills and also the ability. And self-esteem is a little bit different because a lot of times people will mix up these two, self-esteem and also self-confidence. And self-esteem is more like your overall opinion about yourself, like a person's overall subjective sense of personal worth and value. In other words, self-esteem may be defined as how much you appreciate and also like about yourself, regardless the outer circumstances. So when you have a healthy self-esteem, you feel good about yourself and you see yourself as someone who deserves respect. And when you have lower self-esteem, you might put little value on your opinions and also on yourself. So you might prioritize other people and sacrifice your needs and values. So like I mentioned, today's topic is more about the self-confidence, and I will be introducing 3 conjunctions that might cause lower self-confidence. And it doesn't mean you're doomed if you have one of those, because astrology is a great tool to uncover the things that you are not able to uncover for yourself. Maybe sometimes it's because of age, because sometimes when we're too young, we'll not be able to see things with clarity. Or maybe it's because due to the life experiences, or sometimes it's because of the fear, because the fear clouds our mind and to see things with clarity. And sometimes it's just not the time yet. So if you're watching this video, either you are a student of astrology or you're meant to receive this message. And I hope this video can bring you some positiveness and different perspective. And if you'd like to have a reading with me, you can find the booking information in the description box below. So the first combination is Sun conjunct Saturn. So this is one of the most difficult combinations in astrology. I believe whether it's in Western astrology or in Vedic astrology, they're both very difficult. Because Saturn starves whatever planet it's with, and Sun agitates whatever the planet is with. And Saturn and Sun, they are mutual enemies to each other. So you can see that these 2 enemies together, they can create a lot of frustration and also painful experiences for a person. And Sun represents the core. It rules the core, identity, sense of self, confidence, and creative self. It rules the power, status, and also the kingdom that we build in this lifetime. We're here to build in this lifetime. So when Saturn conjuncts the Sun, it starves the person's true nature, the core. So it's particularly difficult when the person is young. Usually during their lifetime, there might be some kind of father figure or authority figure can have some kind of certain traits, like very critical, harsh, judgmental, difficult to please, always criticizing the weakness of the person. It's very painful experience because it constantly can make you feel not good enough about yourself. And it can also make you lose your self-belief and also self-confidence. And it doesn't have to be a father figure. It can also be a maternal figure. It can be your mother as well, grandfather or grandmother. But Sun usually represents the more male figure. But if the father wasn't around, it could be someone else. It could be a teacher or the relative. And usually the person grew up in an environment that their true self, authenticity, and also the originality, uniqueness are suppressed, are denied. What they are good at, what they want to do, how they want to express themselves doesn't get validated by the authority figure or society or school, because the authority figure is also shaped by the culture, the school, and everyone else, like the mainstream. So the authority figure can be quite controlling and has a strong opinion about how the child needs to behave, and also the characters that the child needs to develop, and the life path that the child needs to take. And because the authority figure, like I said, because it's also shaped by the culture and society, so the authority figure usually has some kind of expectation or image that they want to shape this child. As a result, what the child is being measured is not necessarily what they are good at. And what the parents expect them to do, expect them to be, not in line with their true nature, not in line with their natural talents. That's why those kids, they don't do well. It's like asking fish to climb a tree, so it's impossible. They would do well. And that's why those kids, they start to have some doubts in their abilities to accomplish things and also to perform. And there might be also situations where people have Saturn and Sun Conjunction, forced to be humble by humiliating actions or humiliating words, being judged harshly, because those people, when you have this conjunction in your horoscope, particularly when you are young, it's like you have to go through the process that you are not allowed to do the things you want to do and to be who you are. And in the more difficult charts, there can be some kind of punishment action in their life as well. So when they try to do things they want to do, when they want to follow their inspirations, or when they want to express themselves, they get punished. Therefore, such people, those people who have this conjunction, they end up not knowing who they truly are, not knowing what they are good at, and they can't express themselves spontaneously. They don't feel capable and secure in the things they want to do. So, like I said, self-confidence is about believing yourself in the things that you want to do. So, in their whole life, they've been measured against something they are not, against something they are not good at. As a result, they don't know what they are good at, and sometimes it can also cause, like, they can change different paths in lives, they can change the vocations in life, because they're just testing, like, which one is what I'm good at. Or maybe they're just doing something that the parents wants them to do. And another thing is because what they are good at never gets validated. So subconsciously there's some kind of need for approval, recognition, validation from the outside. So it's very normal when you don't have something, when you lack something, naturally you want to get from the outside to fulfill that hole. But interesting enough is when those kids, they do have the chance to shine, they actually shy away from those chances. That is because the traumatic childhood experiences has become like this inner voice, like telling them, it feels like they expect to be judged, expects the parents might tell them, you're not doing good, and this is not what you're good at, and you're so stupid, something like that. They don't want to be criticized, they don't want to be humiliated, so that's why there are these two polarities, like creating these inner battles within their psyche. Like on one hand, they want to be recognized, they want to get this validation, but on the other hand, when they do have this chance, but this inner voice and also the traumatic childhood experiences, it's there, like telling them you're not going to be succeed in this. So it's quite painful. It's very, very painful combination. And usually people with this conjunction, Saturn and Sun Conjunction, they need to work extra hard to understand themselves and understand where this is coming from, understand where this limitation is coming from, what's holding them back, accept themselves, and also rebuild from there. So the lesson for people who have Saturn and Saturn conjunction is to learn to connect with the inner authority. That's the ultimate goal. But firstly, find out who they are, find out their natural talents and gifts, and recognize their fears, and find out where this is coming from. And little by little, utilizing their talents and building the confidence from the ground up, and learn to trust in their own talents, authenticity, and uniqueness, and stop shying away from their true potentials. And the good thing about this combination is that such people, they will always try their best for everything, because psychologically they don't feel good about themselves. They don't feel they do it good enough. So lack of confidence, and it's painful, but it also makes them humble. So even though when they have a little bit of achievements, they wouldn't brag about it. They will still try their best. They will try 110% for everything. And if they didn't achieve the goal that they set for themselves in the end, that's okay too, because every time when they overcome a test or achieve a milestone a little bit, they gain a little bit of confidence, and also they know themselves a little bit more, and they maybe have the chance to accept who they are, understanding what kind of kingdom that they can create in this incarnation. And eventually they have the chance to move forward to a place where they can feel more comfortable with themselves and also become the authority of themselves. It is extremely painful combination, but also this combination can bring a tremendous growth in life as long as you're doing the hard work. So I have this combination, and what happened to me was that I was expected and also measured with academic performance. So if I didn't get good grades, I got punished physically and also humiliated verbally by a close family member. And this close family member used to say to me that I was a tumor of the family, and also I disgraced the family's name when I was young just because I didn't get good grades. And when I grew up a little bit, became a teenager, and also teenagers, they like to hang out with friends. So this close family member continues saying like very humiliating words to me, like I'm worthless and useless, until I was adult. So I was under this humiliation for 20 plus years. And just because I didn't become the person that they expect me to be, and also I didn't choose the path that they thought it would be accepted by the mainstream and also the society. Because I'm a yoga teacher and I'm also doing the healing work for 6 or 7 years. Nowadays, I can still feel unsure about this path, particularly because yoga teaching or healing work or astrology reading, they don't classify it as a classical professional path. So not only I have to deal with this inner battle and also this inner doubts, and also I have to deal with the challenges from the outside, like how the society views me and also friends, because they all have a certain path already, and I'm still trying to build up something. So yes, it's not an easy process, but that's why we have a whole life to enjoy. Then the second combination is Sun-Pluto conjunction. So Sun symbolizes the man father figure or the man authority figure in life. So it could be the mother as well, like I mentioned earlier. It could be the mother if the father wasn't around. And Pluto's energy is very domineering, penetrating, intense. So when these two planets conjunct together, it could show that the father figure is very controlling. The father figure wants to control every detail of the child's life. And what happened was the first part of life of such people have this conjunction. Usually it's not easy. And there might be some kind of platonic or hidden events happening in the family or happening to them, or something they cannot talk about in public. Something happened behind the closed doors. So like abuse, being bullied, domestic violence, criminal activities in the family, or mental illness in the family, just the darker side of life experiences in general. And it doesn't have to be big or serious, like being beaten or abused or whatever, but some events that make them feel ashamed to talk about. And also these kind of events is not really easy to talk about, to chit-chat with people. So naturally they are like taboo subjects. So these events happen to them, or events where those people, they feel like their power being taken away. And these placements, Saturn and Pluto conjunction placements, is very painful. It's because Pluto is like the destroyer, like the Hindu god Shiva. in Hinduism. Shiva destroys everything. Shiva destroys the ego and also destroys the personality. So it's like Pluto destroys the ego, destroys the personality, self-image, who you are, and also the basic sense of self and confidence. And the father or the man authority figure can be very controlling, at least from the child's perspective. They are very controlling. And child, they feel like the father knows everything. He can detect every slightest intent of the child. And the child feels there's nowhere to hide in front of the father. So as a result, people with Pluto and Sun conjunction need a lot of privacy. They don't want their privacy, they don't want their private space to be invaded. So that's why they can build up a wall. And they need this privacy. The need for privacy, protection, defensiveness can also manifest in their social self. Like when they interact with people, when they talk to people, they feel like other people can sense them as well. So in order not to be seen through, they build a wall and try not to reveal themselves too much. So they don't talk about themselves a lot. So if you have a friends who have Pluto and Saturn conjunction, you can feel like you've known them for years, but there's still something you can't quite figure out. Like it feels like there's a veil in front of them, and you don't know what's going on here, or what's going on in their past, or what happened in their childhood. So what we see is just the tip of the iceberg. But don't get me wrong, Pluto is the energy associated with Scorpio, so it goes really deep. And also, it's a fixed water, so they fix their feelings onto something. So when they make friends with you, it actually forms a very deep bond. It's just because their protection mechanism is so strong, so they don't reveal themselves easily. They don't want people to use their secrets to go against them. And people with Sun and Pluto conjunction together, they walk on the path of taking their power back in this incarnation. So it's a path of empowerment. And usually such people, they are interested in psychology, astrology, or any hidden knowledge, or any knowledge that can help them to know themselves on a deeper level. And because what happened to them in the early part of life, like probably abuse or bullied or domestic violence or verbal abuse or any hidden shameful events, like taboo events, any events that they are not able to talk to other people, it feels like they are forced to face the darker side of the humanity, the darker side of the life experiences since young. And it feels like their innocence was destroyed. And their life mission is actually to bring those events, bring those taboo events, shameful events under the sunlight. So for Sun and Pluto conjunction people, they need to truly acknowledge and accept the dark side of themselves, the shadow side, the dark side of the life experiences, because in their mind, it might be scary for them, and also they might have this resistance to go into the dark, the shadow side of humanity, the shadow side of themselves, because they probably think in that dark place, there might be some kind of monster there. But if they do go into the dark, if they do go down to the path, they will realize the dark is just very dark. There's nothing nasty or negative about it. Negativity and darkness, they are two different things. A lot of people, they associate darkness is negativity, but they are not. They are not the same thing. So when you do go down to the path of darkness, when you get used to the dark, next time you bring more light into the dark. And when you get used to your own dark, and you start to work on other people's darkness. So that's why such people, they can be excellent psychologists, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, and also healer, because they go through the process. And also it's very important for them to accept themselves, accept the experience, accept where this is coming from. Acceptance is the medicine. Only when they accept, then they can go forward onto the healing process. So for Sun and Pluto conjunction people, you need to have the courage to discover yourself, acknowledge and accept yourself. Like I mentioned, acceptance is the medicine, and this is the number one step for healing process. accepts the dark side, shadow side, and gradually, slowly, you'll be able to take back the power and transform yourself to the other side and start to help empower other people. And the third combination is Saturn conjuncts Mercury. It's a nicer combination. In Vedic astrology, Saturn and Mercury, they are friends to each other. But Saturn always hurts the planets that it's with, so it hurts the qualities of Mercury. And Mercury is to do with communication. So when people have this combination, the biggest frustration actually comes from their communication. Like no matter how much they talk and explain themselves, they never feel understood or heard. And in the early part of life, they might experience no one is listening to them in the family or at home. Or the parents, they just show no interest in their words. Or they could be coming from a big family. So there are many, many different mouths and everybody is talking at the same time and their voice is ignored. Or it could be that there was no communication at all in the family. And also it could be situations like they might experience being laughed at or judged just because they made some kind of spoken or communicative mistakes, or they got laughed at because their accents, maybe they're coming from a different place, or their pronunciation. And it could also be that parents or teachers, their responses to them make them feel stupid, misunderstood, or they make them feel like their words get twisted. So as a result, such people, they become quite cautious with their words. And they worry about the things, the words that are coming from their mouths are not perfect, appropriate, and interesting. So when they grow up, they can still carry this traumatic experience in their psyche, in their subconscious mind, that people don't have time to listen to them, or they are never heard, never understood. They either don't talk much, they only respond when you ask them questions, or they talk a lot. They overcompensate by trying so hard to explain themselves, or they talk really fast as possible because they feel like people don't have time to listen to them. And Mercury is the competent planet. It rules our learning skills. So people with Saturn and Mercury conjunction, there's elements of lack of the ability to understand or grasp a concept when it comes to learning new things, particularly when they are young. So those people, they will feel like they don't feel confident in grasping ideas. They don't feel confident they can just soak it up and understand it. So that's why they can be like active note takers. They can take like extensive notes. But most of the time, the things that they do take notes, they're actually still missing the point when they're trying to learn. It's not because they are not smart, just simply because they have lower self-confidence in learning and picking up information. And Saturn is the slow-moving planet. It brings delays and also limitations. So when it conjuncts Mercury, Mercury is a very thinking fast planet, and also it governs the mind process. So when these two conjunct together, such people's mind process becomes slower. And it doesn't mean their mind operates any less precisely. They just need more time to learn things. And the things they do learn, they actually can retain them much, much longer than the average people. And there might be some speech impediment, delays in speaking as a child. So like Einstein, he had Saturn and Mercury conjunction. He was considered as a genius, but he didn't speak full sentences until he was 5. So he also had this combination. And Saturn and Mercury are not a detrimental combination like Saturn and Sun or Saturn and Mars, but it does affect a person's confidence level when interacting, communicating with others. It's difficult for them to chit-chat. It's because they have this anxiety. The words coming out of their mouths are not perfect, not interesting. People don't have time for me to listen to me. So that's why they can't just chit-chat with people. And they can't easily exchange ideas with others. Small talks is very difficult. And as we're social animals, we make a connection when we communicate. So it would be very difficult for people with this combination to feel the connection. Because when they talk, maybe they are a lot of anxiety, or maybe they're just thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? But lose the connection. So that's why it can be painful. And also in their life experiences, they never felt understood. So that's why there's also no connection here in communication. So it can be very painful in the modern society, because in modern society it relies a lot of communication and interaction, idea exchange. And Saturn hurts the planets that it's with, and Mercury rules friendship. So such people, they might also feel like they don't have much friends, a lot of friends that they can talk with or to communicate with. But the good thing about this combination is that their mind eventually can become very meticulous, precise, and carefully structured. They might overcompensate by getting a lot of degrees or certifications. Because remember, when they're young, they are slow learners when they're young. So just to prove everybody else they are not stupid, they will just overcompensate by getting a lot of degrees and certifications. And eventually they might become some kind of authority figure in academics. But it really depends on the whole chart. But teachers and public speakers, sometimes they also have this combination, because they carefully script the speech, rehearse 4 or 5 times prior. With perseverance and practice, they overcome and master their lower self-confidence in communication and learning. So you see, there's still way to get out of this. But the good thing about this combination is if you do nothing about it, with time, the situation will improve as well. Because Saturn matures at the age of 36. So after age of 36, you'll feel much better afterwards. But I still do encourage you, if you have this combination, just practice and perseverance, and you definitely will feel much better. And you will overcome this anxiety when you try to interact or communicate with other people, or if you have to do a lot of presentation. So that would be the 3 conjunctions that I chose for you today that relates to the self-confidence and how it affects how much we believe in our skills and abilities, and how it affects our confidence level when interacting with other people in society, in a social gathering. And people usually think knowing the future is going to make a difference, but it really boils down to the mind. You can have a wonderful event happening to you in the future, but you still feel miserable. Or you can also have a bad event happening to you, but you're at peace. So it really boils down to the mind, because the mind governs how we see the world, governs how we see our lives. This is the projection. And this is also the mind that determines if the event is good or bad. So work on your mind, work on the consciousness. Try to shift the consciousness by knowing yourself on a deeper level. Just like these 3 combinations, you can choose to be miserable about it, or you can also learn to accept it. Like I mentioned, acceptance is the medicine. This is the number 1 step for the healing journey. So after you are able to accept it, embrace it, and look where this is coming from, do something about it. And slowly, slowly, you can move forward to a happier state of mind. So I hope this video can give you a different perspective and maybe a confirmation what you're going through, or maybe find some strength from this video. And let me know what are the other topics you might be interested in. And have a very blessed day. Sat Nam.